Hey everybody, this is Mario Rachi, brand strategist and founder of ManuFracture, here today with another episode of Ambitions of an Agency. And today we're going to be talking about executing distribution. What are the next steps basically after full, creation of the brand identity and presenting it to the client. So let's say you already did your brand identity presentation, you already did your strategy presentation, you got all that going, you've scaffolded the steps all the way to the top of the project ladder, so to say, or the project building, whatever metaphor we want to use. And then what we need to do next is to start distributing the content, right? We have to distribute and start creating ideas for content that we're going to put out and distribute the message. Now, the powerful thing about this is that you already have your basic idea, your main idea that we will use to create all the types of content that you want, right? The unique selling point. You have the unique selling point already. You test it, you filtered it, you've done everything possible to make sure that it works and it stands out from the market perceptions and all this type of stuff. So now all you need to do is to really start creating content ideas. And what does that mean? So basically, the point of content and the point of putting out content is to become omnipresent, is to be in a person's face for the majority of the time being during their day to day. And this is why it's so important. People are always distracted by things and, items and ads and all this stuff. Your content needs to be there all the time, running, running, running. Your page, your profile, if you're using your Facebook profile, your personal profile, your LinkedIn profile, it needs to be running with content. It needs to be put, that is like a machine. You put in stuff in, and engagement and comments and sales come out the other end basically. So ultimately what you need to do, and the effective thing to do here, is to first take your USP, take your main idea, and start dividing it and start piecing it apart, seeing, okay, I have the USP, I know what the main problems are of my target market. So let us reverse engineer and let's see, what problems and pains and mistakes, these people, especially these working parents in this case, or college students, or whoever, are making to the point that, it's getting in the way of getting them to their desired situation, whatever that desired situation may be. Maybe it's more time, maybe it's peace of mind, whatever it may be, right? And so you need to know what that is first of all. And you probably did that with the user profile. You probably know all the pains. You take those pains and you put it in a template. Whatever framework you use, the template you should be following, or the template or the kind of theme you should be following, is that kind of separation. You have to show the separation between the pain and the desired state. So ultimately, when you start a post, the main goal is to kind of show and instill that separation in the target market that's going to view the piece of content, whatever it is, right? So let's say you got that out of the way, you're brainstorming stuff, like, and I'm gonna put some clips here about me brainstorming content ideas with my clients.
All right.
So
Let's see
got
what
we
else
got
out
some work
there.
ahead of us, but we should be able to do this. So keep going. Just
Mm,
talk about the mistakes they're making on a day-to-day basis.
I guess another one would be the amount of stress that students go through. Because I mean, when you're in high school, you're taking 7 classes every day. You got homework in each classes. You got you got to balance your school life with your outside school life with athletics. It's just the stress overall that the students go through that also doesn't. It also hinders them to actually fully learn. I guess. I mean, not learn, but fully sit down and take the time to learn. Does that make sense?
Okay.
They're so overwhelmed by other stuff they have to do that they don't have the proper time to learn properly.
Is this specifically, yeah, in school? Okay, got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, so they're taking classes every day, having to balance uh, a ton of aspects of their life. Yeah.
Right. Ton of aspects, whether it be school, religious, athletics, family. I mean, there's hundreds and thousands. I mean, the list goes infinitely on.
All right. Okay. And that hinders them from learning. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it hinders them from learning. It hinders them from actually learning to learn or actually sitting down and understanding what the subject is without sacrificing another aspect of their life.
Ooh, that's good.
I mean, yes, life is all about compromises, but you also have to understand that you have to make time for a lot of things also.
Yeah. So they're sacrificing their social life or their, stuff that they have to do. Yeah.
Right. Or they're sacrificing education to make sure their social life and athletics are up to par and everything.
Okay. And
So I guess another problem is they're making bad choices. For example, if they have say for example they have school, and then they have this big party, and then they just have this big competition they have to go to for athletics. Well, both of those are performance bases. Most students will cut short the amount of education time they spend on the homework and focus more on the party, getting ready, and working out and practicing their athletics more often, right?
okay. And you're talking about like maybe college students in this case making bad choices, or just any student
Well,
in
in high school students, I mean, high school students, they do both school and academics and athletics, and they have outside parties. So, I mean, it's just any student in general that overbooks themselves, they start cutting corners. Does that make sense?
overbooks themselves, start cutting.
And I mean, I'm guilty for this too. I mean, when I did academics and athletics and had outside, um, what do you call it, responsibilities also. I mean, I cut corners in education also. So I mean, it happens to the best of us. It doesn't make the student bad. It's just we're overbooked.
Hmm. That's definitely related to both of those, I guess. I like that.
Right. And then,
Um, and when they start cutting corners in their learning, I guess how more painful does their life get? I guess even more.
well, so cutting corners one or two times is not a bad thing, but
Right.
if it becomes a habit, well, then they're starting to not learn properly, and they're not focusing on their learning, and they're focusing on other stuff when grades are just important in colleges for high school students. Does that make sense?
Okay, and they're not learning properly, and I guess that will affect them learning in the
No,
future, or what? I guess.
right. Because if you're spending less and less time doing homework and just finding the answers or copying for someone else, you're not really learning the material. You're just copying and pasting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, passively going through school, not getting life skills or something like that, I guess, or
Right.
getting the I guess basic knowledge
Right.
to
That's another
live,
way to put it.
I guess, or something like that. It's pretty good. I guess what's the pleasures of fixing those two type of pains? I guess the first one is they're having to balance a bunch of aspects of their life. So what would
So
be the pleasure of fixing that?
So fixing that one, the pleasure would be to understand how to properly balance and how to be strong enough to say no sometimes. That's a very, very huge problem with just people in general. We don't like saying no. We can't because if we say no, we think the other person is going to think bad of us. Our prestigious and respect is to go down. It's just learning to say no and take priority is a very hard lesson to learn, but it's a very pleasurable lesson to learn once you fully embrace it and understand why you say no. Does that make sense?
So basically, learning becomes fun. I guess. Um,
Not learning doesn't become fun. Learning becomes efficient.
So you can get to the fun stuff.
Right. So learning becomes efficient
I like that. It's pretty good.
because you got to put the hard work in at first to have the fun later. Does that make sense?
Yep, pretty good. So you can get to the fun stuff. Then you'll actually you'll actually have time to enjoy the stuff and not have something like school in the back of your head or something like that.
Right. So learning how to learn efficiently, I guess is a proper way to say that. No, I mean I'll probably play
Okay, so let's say you've already kind of done all the stuff you needed to do. You know, you've built out a content from the USP. You know, you've built out um, different types of content, different types of things, and you've built it all out. You know, in the spreadsheet that you did, or in a piece of paper, or in whatever framework you're using, right? And you built out the piece of content. Now what do? Well, you distribute it. But what happens? You can't distribute without tracking, because if you're just throwing it out there all the way, all the time, you're not going to understand what's working and what's not. And this is not to say, and there's many people who say this, is like, but what about quality, Mario? What about quality? It's like, well, the thing is, you don't know what quality is until the data shows. You don't know what quality is until you've tested it, right? You have to know what the market responds to, so you understand that that's what's quality, not some ideological version of what you're thinking of, right? And then another thing is to deem content bad immediately without having data or without having understanding of that type of data, right? You don't have understanding of how much it's reaching, what is the engagement, likes, other clicks on the other page, right? Clicks to your website. You're not dissecting that, you're not understanding what those things mean, and also you're tracking for 1 month, and then you're thinking that you're going to see results in 1 month, which again is based off your poor expectations, right? And I always tell this to my clients: you don't want to go 1 month and stop content on 1 month only. You're not going to build that presence, right? Facebook, posting content, it's always a long-term game, right? That's why we pair it with something else, which I'm going to show you in the next video, right? That's why we pair it with something more proactive that takes us, to the next level, right? So this is the point here. So you have to distribute it really, really well, right? That's the first thing. You have to distribute this really well, and then you have to track the data off of it, right? So you have to be consistently posting, on a consistent time period, and then you have to keep track of the data, right? And I'm going to show you here what I mean by that. For the tracking methods, the way I do this and the way anybody should do this depends on what you want to do, right? So, but in my case, I find it easy to use spreadsheets, despite it looking like an antiquated thing to do, or, oh, spreadsheets are boring, or blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that, they're not creative, right? Everyone says that, designers especially can say that, but the thing is, spreadsheets give you data, all right? They'll help you track your actions, and they help you track exactly and reverse engineer the process of a piece of content getting a response and then becoming a sales conversation, right? And that's incredibly important. So what you have to do, and what I've been doing this, I did this for 1 month so far. We have released the content. It's been a month so far. We are right now at the end of September, and we are just posting content on this page. As you can see, the whole thing has already been rolled out. Uh, all this type of stuff. You can clearly see it's all been rolled out at the moment. If you keep going. So as you can see, this has been a pretty consistent posting strategy. Okay, look at that. You know, except for that day, which I decided to do two as a small experiment. However, it's been consistent. 16, 17, you know, 16, 13, right? Excluding weekends, correct, right? Because weekends, they aren't that good for engagement, and it's good to kind of give your brain a rest when you're creating content as well. So that's good. But overall, you can see consistent imagery, consistent pattern application, everything, right? This is distribution at its core, right? And so this is what we'll be doing over and over and over again on the long term, right? And then what my client needs to do is he needs to start posting these posts, recycling them, and putting them on his Facebook profile, because profiles have more reach, and then even better, go into groups and do that. So that's even more important. That's going to be even uh, more of a thing that needs to be done that way. So we're going to have to track for messages, and we have to track for how many people respond to the type of content that we do, which is incredibly important. As you can see here, we have a very few things that we measure here. We measure profile posts, right? Content medium, group posts, engagement, reach. Engagement is basically anything: clicks, photos, views. Reach, number of friend requests we get, or well, this is wrong. So basically, number of people, reach we get, how many people we reach, basically, right? How many people look at the thing, numbers of friends and added or requested, content type, content qualitative data, right? We won't have much data at the moment, which is okay because it's just been 1 month, so it's not a big deal. But we can definitely wrap it up the process. And then results metrics, improvement metrics. Basically, these two things are lead and lag indicators. I use them in my business. Anybody should use them in any sort of thing. If you're trying to get a result to something, all you really need to do is focus on the actions, right? How to improve something, you know, really dialed in on that, and then the results will come. And then after the results come, you can measure, the revenue generated times the time spent, which equals the ROI, right? So if he spent 2,000 on me, what's his ROI back? And we'll have to calculate that afterwards, right? So key goals, right? We put baselines, right? Baselines, 0 sites, 3 reach, right? Easy baselines to really take from, but what we're really looking for is more sales and a consistent, predictable flow of clientele to his business. And then other tracking methods, I guess, you can do Hotjar. Hotjar checks. Hotjar checks the amount of people on your site, but it also checks mainly the behavior, right? It records the people going on the site, right? So if you can look here, you play one, and you can see the person going through the site, going through everything, right? Looking at the stuff. You can even make, I believe, heat maps as well, right? You can view the heat map, and the heat map tells you where the attention's going. This is a more scientific thing to do, I guess, but it helps as well to know um, where the I guess the focus is going, right? And the focus isn't going here; it's going here. So that's interesting, right? So we have to figure out a way over time to fix that, right? And that's another thing we'll have to do. Um, and then you have, of course, setting up analytics, which is incredibly important to know what's happening on a day-to-day basis from your site, and you can know, for the last 28 days, how long it's going, how much sessions have the users had, etc. Right? So you can what's really important when tracking data of any sort. Again, it's regression to the mean. And this is a term in data analysis or data in general, and statistics, is basically means, over time, the most extreme things that happen will average out, right? So if you get a sale the first time, doesn't mean the sale will happen every single time. It just means that it happened one time, it will happen again, and it will even out over time. So even though the website is fluctuating and it looks, oh my God, so extreme, right? Or you look in the last 7 days, right? What's this huge dip here? What does this mean, right? Well, it all is going to average out over a long period of time, right? Maybe in 90 days or so, it's going to be much, much different, right? And the trend will look different, basically, the trend line, or how it looks, basically, right? So today you can see, oh my God, it's terrible, right? That's why you don't track data, you don't see data, or you don't look the lens of data through just one day, with a 1 day lens, because otherwise you'll be changing everything every time and you won't get the results you need. And that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible, right? And so you can see here, it's just basic setup of Google Analytics and Hotjar to really make sure that the site, you're tracking the site and you're tracking the content. So you're tracking basically all the deliverables at the moment that are going out there, right? Okay, and that's basically tracking data, right? Tracking data is so important. And again, you're not going to know what works after a month. So you're just going to have to wait it out for 2, 3, or 4 months and really start figuring out, right? So after the third thing is done, the third thing is to actually start actively going and reaching out, right? So that is a proactive strategy, right? That means that you have to be posting on your profile, but also you must be posting in groups. The level of attention that Facebook has gotten over the time period has decreased over time from Facebook pages all the way to, from Facebook pages to your personal profile to groups. So what I mean by that is that groups have the most engagement at the moment because they're tight-knit communities of people that are constantly engaged in that. Very rarely do people start to engage with your content on your personal profile, on your Facebook page, right off the bat. They could put a like, they put a comment sometimes, but overall, engagement in a group is so powerful. So what you need to do, you need to go out there and you need to post, and you need to try to get the low-hanging fruit of those people, right? Those people who are in the buying mindset at the moment, who want to buy your product, who are thinking about it, who've done their research, who've gone through the whole thing about comparing products, comparing services, etc. And you have to go out in those relevant groups that you're joining or you're part of, and post out a lead magnet, something that really grabs their attention. Could be a quick PDF, right? It could be anything. But ultimately, what that does is that you can basically get the people there. You take the variable or the failure of reaching people, and you're getting in now to get to reaching people, because reach is no longer an obstacle for you because you're in a group, and a group has great reach. So you can test your content out there, you can test your lead magnets out there and see which ones work, and you can track that and see if that's working, right? And so that's incredibly important. And so one of the next steps I'm going to do with my client is create a lead magnet so that they can actually start actively posting in the group, right? So they need to be proactively doing that along with that, right? You can never stay thinking that content only is going to solve a problem. It does not, right? Just like making a brand identity without any point of distribution is basically a lost cause. It's the same thing with trying to do a content strategy and just doing content strategy for a decade or so, not for a decade, but like 2 months or so, and hoping that you're gonna get sales off it. It's not gonna happen, right? It takes some time to get, speed and momentum to understand what the target market you're actually doing, right? You got your educated guess from the USP, from your competitive research, and now you're testing it. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where, it separates the true designers who create results from the designers who are pretty makers. All right? That's what it is. So if you want to get results for a client, you have to do that. All right? So to summarize, what did we say in this video today? So first, we need to create content based off the USP and the pains of the target market. What mistakes are they making, and create content based off that. Two, we need to really figure out and track all the type of data that we are getting from our content. It generates data for us so we can keep improving. Track that. Second, proactively reach out in groups and find the low-hanging fruit or the people in the buying mentality to go and start, getting sales right off the bat. So those are the three things. So I hope you enjoyed this content. Hope you like this video. If you want to subscribe, for more content, comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I really do. I engage with my audience. And I will see you on the next one.